Hello, class. This is Mr. K. As you are aware, I've decided to post some lectures that you can actually listen to, and I'm hoping that through doing this, many of you will have a better understanding of the material, but also I have a better understanding of research design and the complexities that are a part of the research process. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to first just do a brief overview of research design and characteristics of research. I'm hoping that this lecture provides you an understanding that you can use in your proposal at some point, but it'd also be nice to just hear some of the concepts and terms. Excuse me. So let's briefly just look at characteristics of research and research design. Research, the process in which it's being utilized is done to organize kind of an orderly investigation of well-defined topics. So the point is then that findings are shared to ensure a proper exchange of knowledge and information within research communities, but more importantly, society at large. Regardless of the overall approach taken, a key concern of systemic research is that the research is both reliable and valid, which we'll talk much more about this later. But reliability and validity are essential concepts that must be fully understood prior to the researcher's capacity to conduct systematic research. So once the researcher develops an awareness of and a sensitivity to the concerns of these two concepts, they may productively engage in an effort to design a research project capable of supporting these values. And in doing so, can produce important findings to share with the rest of the research community. We will consider these efforts in the broad set of research design options in the following lecture, really. We'll be breaking these components down a little bit more. And as you'll know, through your proposal process, what you're really looking at doing is providing a framework or a foundation to place many of these concepts on. So let's just start at the basics. There's two general approaches to scientific inquiry. There's quantitative and qualitative, which many of you might be familiar with. The two approaches differ in terms of their overall goals and methodologies, though. So qualitative is hoping to describe, gain insight, and understand some phenomena. Where quantitative is also looking to describe and explain, but it's looking to control or predict variables related to a phenomenon. So let's look at the approaches. Qualitative is based on observation, interviews, and the like that rarely employ kind of statistical analysis. Often qualitative approaches rely on researchers' interpretive skills to analyze, integrate, and make sense of the data that's been collected. Here, the line of reasoning is kind of inductive. Inductive simply means really you're building it up. Qualitative research tends to focus on individual cases to produce in-depth understanding. So methodological examples include histograph and ethnograph approaches, as well as phenomenological approaches. A histograph research involves studying, understanding, and interpreting past events. The purpose of historical research is to reach insights or conclusions about past persons or occurrences, typically requires interpretation of this information. Ethnographic research studies participants in their natural cultures or settings, and the focus is on particular context that provides the researcher with a focus for study of setting participants. Generally, it involves observation in a natural setting, and usually extended periods of intensive data collection. So those are just two types of qualitative research designs. Like I mentioned, phenomenological and grounded theory are two more types, which are referred to a little bit more in your text. Often in the helping professions, you see much more phenomenological and grounded theory research designs. So if we look at then quantitative research design emphasizes the use of tests, measurements that are analyzed with statistical procedures, and that's its primary kind of characterization. Here, the line of reasoning is deductive, which is a big difference. Quantitative research is more likely to study samples or a whole population, using statistical inference to move from knowledge of the sample behavior to the population behavior. So basically, what that means is really the focus is generalizability, is kind of a way of thinking about it. So some methodological examples would include the experimental and correlational approaches. Experimental approaches allows the researchers to make cause and effect statements about their research studies, which is often the goal. Only type of research that can establish pure cause and effect between variables is experimental research designs. This approach includes the use of control variables, treatment and control groups, standardized procedures, measurement of observable phenomenon, and a concentration on changes or variations in a dependent variable. So correlational, though, research seeks to determine whether and to what degree a statistical relationship exists between two or more variables. A benefit of this research is that researchers can study relationships among large numbers of variables within one study. And another kind of benefit is that it offers predictions of scores for one variable based on observation of scores for another related variable. So those are the two big kind of categories of research design, quantitative and qualitative. And some examples of methods that are used within each of those. So when you're writing your proposal and specifically going into the methodological I hate that word, methodological section, you're going to want to think about these designs and these approaches. The big thing to understand is that the research design that you choose is largely based off of the research question that you've created. And so if your research question is trying to look at changes in variables or seeing if there's a relationship, you're more likely going to be using a quantitative approach. However, if your research question is more grounded towards individual case studies, the experiences of the phenomenon, how people are dealing with certain situations, that's going to fall under more of the qualitative research design. Okay? So as of right now, I want to end this first kind of lecture just simply on those two categories. The subsequent lecture is just going to discuss more fully the actual design types. So looking at both of the qualitative and quantitative methods. And so we'll talk a little bit more about those types of designs. That will hopefully provide you with more information when you're thinking about the design of your proposal.